screen. Are you okay there?
Yes, we
I
can.
switch on my video for the time being. I'm sure you don't want to see my ugly face, but here we go. I'll just switch on my video so you can see it. And I'm going to go say um, from the beginning. Just going to keep that. Okay, can you all see my screen?
Yes, definitely. It's 100%.
Nou, ek moet eerstens verskoning vra vir almal. Ek is eintlik 'n Engelsman van Engeland af. En die Suid-Afrikaanse weermag het my baie gehou in 2 weke geleer hoe om Afrikaans te praat. Maar jy weet, baie keer kry ek my woorde deurmekaar en ek sê ietsies en dan lag almal vir my. Die ander aand wat ek by 'n klub en toe probeer ek om die hele ding in Afrikaans te doen en toe sê ek, sien julle die sproeteltjies op haar wat so agter, en ek bedoel eintlik sterretjies, en ek sê sproeteltjies, en toe sê hulle na die tyd van my maat, en weet jy, daar is nie 'n woord in Afrikaans wat sproeteltjies is, dis sproete. En ek sê nee, sproete is op 'n gesig, maar daai is sproeteltjies. So ek maak my eie Afrikaanse woorde op en alles. So as julle nie omgee, ek sal van nou en dan na Afrikaans toe gaan wanneer ek weet ek so dat ek nou daai kan inbring. Maar anyway, so dankie julle almal soveel. Brandpunt is so spesiaal vir my. Baie spesiale klub wat julle het my baie kere ondersteun in soveel maniere. En enige mense wat photographers is vir my is heeltemal so dierbaar vir my, want jy weet, dit is my nie net my stokperdjie, dis my lewe. En ek doen klasse die hele tyd, die hele dag. Mense weet nie, maar jy weet, ek doen omtrent, I average about 135 classes a month. The other day, I saw a little report coming up from my diary that said to me 9,640 something. And I thought, what the hell is that number? You know, and in 5 years, I'm almost have done 10,000 classes. Okay. And it's been amazing. I've got clients throughout the world. I have people in Dubai, clients in Dubai. I have clients in Africa, the United Kingdom, in Ireland, South America, in Chile. Of course, Nico, my good friend in Canada, Australia, and all over the world. I have clients, and of course, my very special clients here in South Africa. So I get up here sometimes 7 o'clock in the morning to start my Australian classes, and end off later in the evenings finishing off the other side of the world's classes. So it's quite amazing that I have this opportunity to work with such talented and gifted photographers and try to show them that through editing and taking photos, they can get beautiful photographs like some of the top photographers in the world. So what happened was, oh, by the way, the screen at the moment, if you want to take a screenshot or jot down my telephone number, please send me a WhatsApp. Don't call me because I was probably in a class at the time. Or you can go to my website, which is martindudley.com, and you can go have a look there. So me, Martin, myself, I'm a creative photographer. That means I try to do photographs that I enjoy, and I find that I like to delve more into a creative line. And but I've got to put that into the drawer when I deal with my clients, because some clients are nature photographers, some clients are portrait photographers. Some of my clients do this for a living every day. They are full-time photographers, either in product photography on weddings, or commercial photographers that work for different photography sites. And I have to put the creative me in the drawer because I need to sort of work with the photographer to try and get what they want out. And you know, I was sitting down and I see that there is this problem that we have is I don't know quite. I can help with the editing, but a lot of the work is actually where I could be with the client taking photos. Okay, but how do I do that? So I decided to start running a set of workshops and try to figure out something, what could be different to what the rest of the mill are doing, trying to make it, in a sense, as economical as I possibly could, and at the same time, putting photographers into places where could be incredibly different for them and at the same time challenging. So that later on, when they finished with the workshop, they can always relate back to a situation or time. And I thought, how am I going to do that? And then what I thought was, let me go around the world. I didn't go and travel around the world, but let me go see places around the world which I would enjoy to go to and possibly could offer the experience that I'm looking for to offer to clients. And I came up with Istanbul, and I invited people to join me in Istanbul, and there was an amazing response to it. And at your club yourself, Anne, Ingrid, Sari, and Renata have all joined. And if I've left anybody out, I'm sorry, but join me there so that I'm not saying let's go and get the absolute perfect photos. What I'm saying is let's go out there and let me show you how I see things and how I'm different in things. So tonight is about travel photography. And but I'm going to just kick off by saying that this is not a talk about joining me. This is a talk about what you would do in preparation for a travel photography. And travel photography could be going to Johannesburg for a morning. It could be going to the Kruger National Park. It could be going overseas. We don't need to fly. We can just travel, okay, and going to somewhere different. So I don't want you to think of this is just, but the backdrop I'm going to use is Istanbul so that you can get the feeling and the idea of going overseas or going to a place. And by the way, it could be Bloemfontein, Cape Town. It doesn't matter. It's travel photography. So let me start the introduction. I'll start my talk by introducing you to this wonderful world of photography in a different city to our own. Oh, sorry.
Dream of rain, a dream of gardens in the desert, standing back in vain, a dream of love as time runs through my hands. There's a rose, each of our fans a secret promise. There's a fly. اللي شفته قبل ما تشوفك عينيا عمري ضايع يحسبوا ازاي عليا انت عمري dream of
Wow. Okay. Well, I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope the sound came through correctly. Istanbul is an incredibly big city. It has 22 million people that live in the city, and it is in two continents. So it's so big that half of Istanbul itself as a city is in an Asian side of the world, and the other half of Istanbul is in Europe. Okay. And it's simply just crossing a water channel, which you've seen there, some of the videos. And that would put you in Asia or into Europe. So within 10, 20 minutes, you could be standing on another continent in the world. But what we must understand is that it's home to these people. And every morning, I always say to everybody that's on the group, 22 million people go to work, and every evening, 22 million people come back. So we have a city. And then what we need to do as photographers, go to the city and try to find out ways and means to actually capture it.
Martin,
So
can
when I
you, Martin, can you switch on your video or do you want to switch
oh
it on?
oh sorry, well, I'm going to go to my next slide. Okay,
Okay.
so there we go. So when I started embarked on this, a gentleman which some of the people here this evening met, Ryan Enslin, got hold of me and said, Martin, we love this idea of photography in Turkey and Istanbul. Would you mind if we wrote a story about it? And he offered to join me, and I said, certainly you can join me, but you must pay for your trip. I'm not going to not give it to you for free. And he said, no, of course. And Getaway, of course, paid partly Ryan's fee to not all of it, but most of it, for him to join us in Turkey, in Istanbul. And when they came back, they then wrote an article, not about me, but about Istanbul and the people and my tour through there. And they gave me a beautiful 7-page spread with my images, which we used to put in there. And Ryan's beautiful writing, is an incredible writer who wrote up an article about this incredible city and that. And it's what's incredible is that not many photography groups have had their article published in the Getaway magazine. So it was a great privilege and an honor for me to have my trip put into this magazine. So daar's baie goedjies wanneer ons na travel photography kyk, wat jy weet, die eerste ding, my raad aan julle almal, is te doen wat julle liefhet om te doen. So baie kere gaan ons na 'n plek toe en dis eintlik verkeerd, want jy gaan om die plek af te neem, maar jy gaan nie om jouself, jy weet, you must do what you love most. So if you love sport, it's a good idea to go and travel with maybe, for example, a group of people that you might enjoy the sport, like running, and they're saying we're going to London to do a marathon in London. You like running, that would be a good thing to go and take photos of. Or for example, here locally, is if you like running and you're a photographer, you can go down to Durban and go capture the Comrades Marathon, because then you would enjoy it. So it's important that you do what you love. All right. Now, you might be traveling for many different reasons: relaxation and recreation, or family vacation. You might be traveling for work, or like the tour that I offer, a photo adventure, to actually go out, and this is all about photography. And all of them have their pluses and minuses. For example, rest and relaxation, that's exactly what you've got in your heart to do. It's just, I need a break. And you're just going to go lay back and enjoy yourself. And you're going to take some photographs on your way. But remembering that it is going to be a peril to your photography, because going out and capturing photos for yourself and you're wanting great photos, it comes at a sacrifice. It comes at early mornings, late evenings, a lot of traveling, a lot of planning to make sure that everything's right. Family vacation, we must understand that not all of us, like myself, my wife is not a photographer. So if I go on holiday with her, I've also got got to weigh up that she is not a photographer, and I've got to sort of combat that. I can't be out taking photos all the time because she also wants to have a holiday with me. So it takes planning and talking to one another and saying, okay, in the mornings I'll go out, and in the daytime we'll go here, there, and the camera will then stay in the hotel or whatever. Okay. And sometimes we have to travel for work. And that's also a great opportunity because the work normally pays for your flight to get to a certain destination. All right. And then what you can do is after work or after you've done your work for the day, you can go out and capture some photographs of that. Or alternatively, like I said, a photo adventure where, okay, however, in a photo adventure, you must understand is what I was trying to bring across is how can we spend 7 to 8 days behind a camera full time? And that's also hard because we are off. I needed to get everybody to 22 different destinations. And on the way there, to get them to also take photos of different things. Okay. So the one thing also advice is don't only capture the destination, capture your journey. So many times we go and we say, yeah, we can't wait to get to Cape Town, or we can't wait to get to this place. And then eventually you get there. And most of that was great photos, like on the airplane, in the airports. There are great photos all the way from the taxi window on the way to the airport, and from the airport taxi to your hotel. There are photos to be taken all the time. And please do not, please do not think that a photographer needs his camera with him. A good photographer makes use of all the cameras he has available. And I'm so proud that your club has a cell phone category, because a cell phone is also a camera which takes incredible photographs. So your cell phone can capture photographs in incredible places, and you make use of it. You've got to learn. Go online and study what your capabilities of your cell phone are so that you can learn to use it properly. All right, so capture don't only capture the destination, capture your journey. So before I get into the main fruit of what I'm going to be talking about, the first thing is you've got to plan, especially if you're going to be taking photos. You've got to be prepared for your trip, and with these following things that you need to take in. Watter toerusting moet ek saamvat? Watse kameras, watse lense? Okay, want jy weet ons as fotographers wil net alles saamvat. 2 sakke met 4 bodies en al die lense wat ons kan, en die flashes en die strobes, en ons wil net alles saamvat. Nou, jy kan nie alles saamdra nie. Okay, so dit is belangrik dat jy weet wat jy gaan afneem en die tipe toerusting jy gaan nodig hê. All right. Knowing where to go, you must know where this place is where you're going to go and take photos. And of course, there'll be many of them. You need to study them and go look at them. What is the best time to go there? Because you get there and it's terrible. And you'll see that in some of the photos I'm going to show you because you've gone at the wrong time. Okay. Weather conditions play an important role. As a tour group leader, everybody, they didn't realize it, but I'm watching the weather forecast 2 days ahead so that I'm planning to where certain people can go. When it's raining, what are we going to do? When it's nighttime, how are we going to do it? So I need to know weather conditions. And importantly, if plan B, what happens if things don't go to plan? What else can I do? We can't just sit there and do nothing. We need to move them and shuffle our plans around. So planning is vitally important. This part is very important. Whether we're going to Bloemfontein or we're going to Istanbul or Paris or anywhere, is check things and locations before you go. Search things to see on the web in that location. So what can I see in Bloemfontein? Go to things to do in Bloemfontein. And a lot of times you'll see, oh, I didn't know that. Okay. Try to connect with other photographers. Get hold of the Bloemfontein Camera Club, or in my case, I got hold of the Photographic Society of Istanbul and spoke to them, okay, and tried to make contact with some of their photographers, which I did. I'm still Facebook friends with 2 photographers from Istanbul. Check out photography tour locations. I'm not saying go on a tour, but those locations where the tour operators take you to are very good spots to most probably go take photos, okay? And look for things you love. You've got to go and capture things that you would enjoy. Okay? Also, travel photography, what we must understand, it is not specific to one genre. You will be doing portraiture, you'll be doing landscapes, you'll be doing skyscapes, you'll be doing street photography, you'll be doing black and white, you'll be doing architecture. So there's a lot of different genre all put together in one. And you've got to sort of know some of those things together. Part of scouting is know the locations of places before you get there. You can use Google Earth and Google Maps so that you can look around and see where is it, okay? And where is one place in a city or in a place to the next place? You don't want to end up driving 300 kilometers and coming 120 back. So you want to sort of plan your trip, okay? Check out Instagram again. Check out locations on the internet. You can go onto Google Maps and Google Earth and actually walk down those streets. And also go have a look at what other people are saying. Just type in that location and find out what they say about it. And what's the best time to visit? And most important, how do we get there? Because some of these places can be very remote. For example, Sossusvlei in Namibia. I mean, how would you get there? Or how am I going to get there? What times must I be there? What happens if it rains? You need to know those things before you even start going to there. And treat each location as a project. So what I did was I went and I said, that's where I want to go. And I made little notes and everything for that one specific place. And then I moved on to the next place. What does it offer? How does it offer? Okay. And I actually went on a scouting mission before I went. So I went and I visited so many locations to see what would be best for photography for me. And of course, people that I'm going to go take. So I went to go see what would be best. There's some beautiful places, but they're not actually good for photography. Like, for example, nice places like in museums, and museums are beautiful to visit, but they don't offer great photos. All right. Okay. And then try scout out the location first and then return to shoot at the correct time. So we have some places like in the early hours of the morning and late hours in the evening, or when the sun goes down in the evening, which will be good. Go there if you have a bit of time during the day and see where you would stand when the sun goes down and what is the best position. And then later go back again and go shoot it in the correct time. All right. Camera gear, as I was saying earlier, you keep it minimal as possible, lightweight as possible. I mean, a lot of people who came with me came with their big backpacks, and I said, guys, you've got to, and 1 or 2 days they carried these big backpacks. Everybody in Istanbul thought we were going to go climb Mount Everest because some of the photographers had everything with them. Tripod, 2 bodies, 600mm lenses and everything. And I said, guys, you don't need all that stuff. Just take your camera body and 1 or 2 lenses with you, a card, a spare card, and a battery. Because there is a lot of walking involved, because you're going to be looking around, walking around buildings, seeing this, seeing that. And by the end of the day, you can get exhausted by carrying a lot of gear around. So small camera bag. So you take your big camera bag, leave it in the hotel, and get a small backpack or a little sling bag to carry your 1 or 2 extra lenses. Your camera, by the way, if you forget your camera, go home. Okay. Then you get your ticket back. Okay. Lenses, you need a variety. And here's a good idea, 16 to 35mm. I'm not saying buy that specific lens, but you're needing lenses between 16 and 35 to get a nice bit of wide angle shots. A 24 to 70 is an incredible lens, which you can do a lot of street work with, and it covers most of the stuff. And then maybe a 70 to 200 to get a little bit longer focal length. And if possible, the lowest f-stop available, like f2.8. All right, because that helps you in low light. Cell phone camera, learn how to set it at the maximum size for your photo. So many people are going to take so many beautiful photos, but they're all so small that they can't be used. So learn how to put your camera so that it can capture those big photos. My camera captures a 50 megapixel photo. I just need to set it before I take photos, okay? Spare battery and charger, and be careful in some hotels when you put your charger down and you go out, when you close the door and you pull your card out, the power switches off. You come back that afternoon, you're wanting more batteries, and nothing is charged because there's no electricity to the room. So you've got to make sure of that little thing. Memory cards and card readers, memory card and card readers, I would take at least 4 good memory cards with me. That is if you are going to be downloading those photos. Photo storage, I always recommend you take a 4 terabyte external hard drive and your laptop, and put your photos on your external hard drive, and jy gaan en jy sit dit op weer op jou laptop sodat jy backup het. Een van my mense wat saam met my gekom het, sy gelukkig het, was dit nie baie, maar sy hard drive het teruggekom en hy ingeprop en die hard drive was geblaas en gelukkig tog het hy meeste van die foto's teruggekry, maar ja, maar as jy dit op jou laptop ook sit, dan het jy backup van die foto's. Because you spent a lot of money to go to Bloemfontein to go capture and time, so always make sure that you do dual backups. Good, small, lightweight travel tripod. Okay, you don't need to take die moerse groot tripod with, okay, because it's going to exhaust you sometimes because it becomes a burden. If you have a little tripod, it will help you. And if you say, yeah, but what about wind? Like I'm going to Port Elizabeth, wat van die wind? Dan sit jy jou tripod laag op die grond. Jy hoef hom nie heeltemal op te staan. Jy kan hom laag op die grond sit sodat jy meer stabiliteit het met jou tripod. Filters, if you're going to use filters, I don't use filters, but if you're going to use filters, know how to use them. You don't want to sit there going through Google while you're trying to take photos. That's not the time to learn. Should have learned at home. Okay. And this is the most important part. Know your gear. Don't waste your time traveling if you don't know your camera. Practice, 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 non-stop. Your garden is your practice area. Go play with your camera. Go just take voeltjies or trees or something in your garden and play with your camera. Understand, and this is a vital thing I can teach you, and I teach all photographers around the world. Know and use, not only know, but use all 4 modes on your camera. The first one, full auto. The second one, aperture priority, shutter speed priority, and manual. Now, you'll see YouTube tutorial after YouTube tutorial, and the clubs are full of it that say you shoot on manual. And that is the biggest load of rubbish I've ever heard in my life. You don't drive in 4th gear all the time. That's not what a car's gearbox was designed to do. You've got to use all your gears all the way up to 6th gear. And by the way, there's also another gear called reverse. Okay. You've got a camera has been designed to be used on all 4 of those modes. And people tell me, Martin, do you ever shoot on full auto? A lot of times. Because a lot of times there's no time to mess around trying to play with settings in a location where something is going to happen right now. And I switch my camera to full auto and get my photos. Okay. Do I ever shoot on aperture priority? Most of the time. Okay. And a lot of wildlife photographers, some of the best wildlife photographers in South Africa shoot wildlife on aperture priority. Shutter speed priority is another one for a lot of sports guys or things where we are working with speed. You want to slow down your shutter or you want to speed it up, then we would use shutter speed priority. And if the situation is where you've got the time and you're working in a strange situation like a studio or in dark light or situations where you want to take full control of your camera, then you can use M. All right, which is full manual. Okay. Now, people say to me, oh, Martin, I don't know if I should change off of M. Well, I'm going to challenge you. Don't change off of M. But I'm just going to say, go home or the next time you go out and switch your focus off and use manual focus. Okay? Use manual focus and see how good you are at manual focus. you're not going to be as good as your camera. Your camera is incredibly good at finding focus, but it's also incredibly good at working in any of these 4 modes. That's what you paid all that money for, is that it can work in auto, aperture priority, shutter speed, and manual. So please understand, you've got to use those 4. And there's many, many times when it's going to save a lot of your photos because you're on the right mode. Understand and to know all your exposure and focusing settings, okay? So you should know how to set your camera on different focusing settings, and you should know how to, your exposure compensation and your exposure settings. Know your lens and how to use them. So many times that on my trip, photographers say, what lens do I use? And I say, well, which lens do you think you should use? Because I'm wanting you to think. It's easy to just say, do this or do that. But look at a situation. Do you want a wide angle lens or a narrow angle lens? So that you would play around with at home and see what is the best for you. Know how to work with exposure bracketing, and I'm going to get into that just now. Know where your manual focus button is. A lot of people just use full auto, but a lot of times we got to know where your manual focus button is. And that is when you do panoramics, when you take 4 or 5 photos individually across a scene to do panoramic. You take the first photo and then you switch it on manual focus and you do the other 4 or 5. So you need to know where that is. Know how to use your tripod, vitally important. Go into your bedroom, switch off the lights at night, pull out your tripod in pitch dark, and you must be able to set up your tripod and put your camera on it in the dark. All right. Because then nothing is going to fool you. And practice it over and over and over and over again. Okay. Shoot from all angles and use the sun correctly. The sun should be most of the time behind you or on your shoulders. So if the sun is on your shoulder, left and right, or behind you, you'll always get great photos. When it comes to shooting into the sun, of course you can, but it takes a little bit more skill to how to control and what to do. Understand composition, how to put subjects in your photograph, okay? And use your keep your gear close to you at all times. We come from a country where we know that, but don't think that when you go international countries that your gear can't be stolen, okay? Jacoba, one of my students from Cape Town, went on her photography trip to Portugal. She got to her apartment that she booked, and the key wouldn't work to open the door. She phoned the owner came around, they opened up the door, she grabbed the luggage, and when she looked, her whole camera bag and all of the gear gone. And that's on the day 1 of her trip. So the whole photography trip for her was a nightmare. Okay, she had to find out where she could loan a camera or hire a camera. It wasn't the same, and the whole trip, which cost thousands upon thousands of rands, was just wasted because she didn't keep her eye on her camera gear. All right. So there's a bit of a lay down thing of what to do as far as equipment is concerned. But what I want to do is I want to give you 10 concepts to great travel photography. Now, if you're not going to do travel photography, take the word travel out. I'm going to give you 10 concepts to great photography. All right. You see where the problem is we say we want to go shoot that thing. We want to go shoot a particular thing. Okay. And that's what we focus on. I must photograph Sonia inside of a studio or whatever. But we need to understand that there's more to photography than the destination or the item you want to photograph. And these are the 10 things I walk with in my bag. So when I go to a place to go shoot, I'm thinking about these. In fact, there are more. I think I've got 15, but I don't have time to go through for all 15. Okay. But the one big concept is this first one, great light. Where light meets emotion. You need good light in order to get good photos. And in travel photography, and when you're finding beautiful places, that great light only happens twice a day. It happens in the morning and it happens in the evening. you've got to know your location and where the light is going to be, where the sun is going to be coming up from and where the sun's going to go down from, and figure out if it's going to be a good sunset photo or a good nighttime photo. But those early mornings are just incredible because suddenly you meet that time of day where the sun starts coming up and a little bit of light is available. And by the way, all of these photographs, no flash is used and no filters have been used in all of these photographs. Okay, so those particular times of day are great. Now you've got great light, and that is what you concentrate on, is you're looking for great light when doing travel photography. So mornings and evenings. Now, if you say, I'm going to go to a place for 4 days, you've only got 4 mornings and 4 evenings to go take photographs. In other words, you're going to come back with 8 locations captured. All right. So you need to find places where when light comes up, that in the mornings or in the evenings, that those places have got great light. Okay. Now, this particular shot is of Galata. And this is in an area called Galata. And when I first went to Istanbul, I wanted to shoot this building, okay, because it's got these beautiful cobblestone roads and this ancient city, okay. Now, Istanbul goes back to a city called Constantinople, which goes back to biblical days, okay. Even in the Bible, it is written that Paul wrote letters to the churches in Constantinople and in Cappadocia. Okay, so we're talking really far back in history, and these places were there, although, of course, Galata wasn't there, and these buildings were there at the time, but they are really old. So I went there to go capture this photograph, and I went in the afternoon, and there is no way you can capture the shot in the afternoon, first of all, because it's dark, but there is just so many people here in the streets. Okay, so I thought I'd come back in the night. So I went there at about 11:30, 12 o'clock at night, and there was more people there than what there was during the day. So I went there early hours of the morning, 5 o'clock the next morning, and this is what I found. But let me show you the exact same location at 10 o'clock in the morning. Do you see the difference between great light and normal? By this time, all the smog of cars and the city and the light, okay, and the camera battles to expose, and look at all the people and everybody's hustle bustle. That is not a good photograph. That is a good photograph because of good light. Okay. This is a place called Maiden's Tower, and it's on the Asian side of the Bosphorus, and we're looking over to the European side with all the mosques on the other side. And this is at sunset, because I knew and studied this before I even got there, that this particular site was very good for sunset because the sun went down behind it. But notice the angle I'm shooting at. I'm not shooting directly into the sun. I've positioned myself that the sun is hitting it from my shoulder in order to get that. All right. And then another great time in the evening is a time called blue hour. And that is when the sun drops, okay, just behind the horizon, and that orange starts to disappear. And that's when you take advantage of blue light, which is a beautiful part. It's just before it gets dark. And most of the time, when judging photography and I see nighttime shots, I actually say it was too late, because I think blue hour is one of the beautiful times to actually capture nighttime photography. Okay. This particular mosque is a mosque in a place called Eminönü. And it's next to a beautiful market, and people that were on the tour that are watching will remember this place. And I went inside this mosque while I was there, and I met a tour guide who was taking some tour people. And they call this the New Mosque. Okay, so it's the New Mosque by Sultan, whatever, but it's called the New Mosque. And while I was there, this tour guide said to me, this is the newest mosque in the area. And I said, wow, it's so beautiful. And wow, they did such a good job to make it look so old. And he says, yes, it was built in the 17th century. Okay, that's what they call a new mosque, built in the 17th century. I mean, that's the Jan van Riebeeck time when this was built. but it's a new mosque today. The other mosques in the area were being restored in the 17th century. So that gives you an idea how old some of these places are. The next one is a mosque called the Blue Mosque. And I know it's orange, but it has colored lights around the outside. In this case, it was blue. And for those who want to know, now in September when I was there, they actually had white lights on it, or a slightly blue colored lights. So they changed the colors of the lights. This mosque was built in 1602, basically 50 years before Jan van Riebeeck came to South Africa. Okay, to give you an idea. And it is absolutely in a stunning place and a beautiful place to photograph. But notice the time of day. The sun has gone down and I'm waiting for the lights to come up. All right. So you got to choose the time of day to capture the images, and great light is that thing we're looking at. Here's another image of the sun busy going down. All right. No, the sky was not orange. But when you set your camera to capture and expose for that sun, you get these incredible silhouettes and birds which are flying over the Bosphorus, and then you can capture this in silhouette. And by doing so, it makes the photograph, I would have been sitting here at about f18 and about 4,000th of a second in order to expose for that sun so that I could get the mosque in silhouette and all that. But you notice that I planned for great light. So great light is a key thing. That's number one. Let's go talk about number two. So while I get to these destinations, I have to take advantage of great light. I can't sleep in the mornings and I can't make supper because I'm going to be out in great light. The second thing I'm walking with and I'm looking for, so while walking around and going, I have to look for this one, intriguing light, found in nature's design. Daai is daai tipe lig, want dit val jou eintlik aan. Jy sien dit en jy sê, ag, Jessie, kyk daar. Dis die lig wat deur die vensters kom, of dis die lig wat net presies op die regte plekkie val. Okay? En daai intriguing light moet jy loop en jy gaan soek het. Okay? So onthou, ek gaan nie net om intriguing light af te neem. Ek loop rond en ek gaan na plekke toe, en terwyl ek daar is, dan soek ek hierdie paar goedjies uit. Nie net die plek, maar hoe gaan ek die plek afneem? Nou, deze kerkie in 'n plek ook genoem Galata. En ek was daar op die regte tyd, dit was in die middel van die dag, en daar was lig wat deur die vensters gekom het, maar nou kan ek binnekant foto's neem, want buitekant is so bietjie swak, en ek het nou net die tyd gevat, en elke 2 sekondes loop iemand in daai plek. En jy staan daar, jy weet, ek het plek om te gaan, nee, vat jou tyd, maat, en sit, en ek wag, tot al die mense uitgaan, en ek sien, daar's my kansie, en dan vat ek my foto. En nie een nie, baie, want dit is die groot probleem met ons photographers. Ons is te haastig om by die volgende plek uit te kom. Nee, let's go quickly. We still got that place to go to, that place. No. You need to take your time, sit and take it. If you haven't got the photo, take it again and take it again and take it again until you get it right. Okay, so this is intriguing light, where light has come through and lit up the inside of the plate. Here's another one that's intriguing light. While we were there, I teach people this incredible thing I love so much, and that is nighttime photography without a tripod. By the way, you can take beautiful photographs at night, street photography. There you see the mosque behind, and there the guy selling his mielies. O, hulle is vrek mal oor hulle mielies daar. En ek sê vir hulle, yes, jy moet ons mielies proe. En ek moet jou eerlik sê, ons mielies proe baie beter as hulle mielies. Hulle is 'n bietjie slapgat mielies daar. Maar ons mielies is baie beter as hulle mielies. So, ja, hulle kan hulle mielies hou. Maar jy het hierdie klein winkeltjies of stalletjies met wielietjies op, en dit, sien jy hoe val die lig daar daai aan? Onthou, 'n kamera kan nie foto's in die aand vat nie, maar jy het lig nodig, intriguing light. Dan werk jy met daai klein bietjie lig wat jy het. En soos ek sê, jy kan 'n tripod gebruik, maar jy hoef nie, jy kan met jou handheld, en die was met handheld. Hier is nog 'n een van daai tipe. Sien jy hoe die lig is wat ek afneem? Die donker is maar net hoe is ons in daai area. En daar sien jy agter die Hagia Sophia. Dit is 'n UNESCO World Heritage Site. Daai kerkie of daai mosk was gebou in 1525. So jy kan dink, Jan van Riebeeck was al klaar. Jan van Riebeeck was, toe hy hier in Kaapstad aangekom het, was daai kerkie al klaar 1100 jaar oud, basies. Okay, so jy kan net dink hoe oud is die plekke in die omgewing. En kan jy sien, intriguing light, alles in die aangevat, net waar daar lig is. Okay, en hoe gaan ons daai hanteer? Hoe moet ons met daai werk? Maar jy moet vir intriguing light soek. Right, there's another one of Galata Street. Okay, this is early hours of the morning. You can see the sun is starting to come up, giving you that more blue sky in the back and intriguing light. Then we went into this incredible place, and this is called the Basilica Cistern. It's a water tank, okay? The Romans built it back in the days, and this would fill up with water, and they would seal it. It's not a place people would go into. It was just a water tank. Water would go in there, and they would then seal it up, and this would feed another one and another one. It was how the Romans built water. And then somebody found out that these things were under Istanbul, and there's hundreds of these under the Istanbul, but there's about 2 or 3 that we can visit. And but notice the light. What we are capturing is the light, and that lights up the place. Here's another one. And what I did was I asked one of my people that went with us to please pass me on some photos of his. And this is not one of my photographs, but a guy called Simon Mouton in Cape Town. And I said, can I have 1 or 2 of your photos that show intriguing light? Okay, and he sent me this one. Here's another one of his. Look at that. Can you see the light is the pavement? The shadows are the poles and everything in. So we're photographing light. Okay, look at that. They are in the shadows, and the light is lighting up the Bosphorus behind and lighting up these people. So when you're out taking photos, whether it be in Bloemfontein or anywhere, always be on the lookout for intriguing light, specialized light. So what happened is that I also believe that not all photographs are club. All photographs are mine and what I want to capture of a place. But we've got such interesting things in our country, and so do all countries. And that is the next thing that you've got to walk with. When going on travel photography, don't only go for the great places. Walk with that idea of, first of all, you're wanting great light. Number 2, intriguing light. And then while walking around, there's another thing that you've got to look out for, is laat ek die kultuur van die mense af. Okay, and dit is culture. Culture lives in the light, color, and rhythm of daily life. So I'm not going to go find only buildings. I'm going to go find how can I capture their culture and bring that home with me. And this is the culture of these people, okay? They make bread on the side of the roads and they sell it there and all of that. And you'll see the culture are captured mainly in people working. This is a shoe shiner. And I've never in my life I've seen some people polish shoes, but look at the beautiful shoe shining table he's got, and you come in, you sit there, and you put your shoes on, or you can leave your shoes with him and he repairs your shoes and then he comes back. But I just enjoyed that type of look into people's culture. These are all over people squashing pomegranates and orange juice, okay? And you can easily walk into bakeries there and capture the people's culture of how they make bread. And then at the mosques, okay, there are women who are going to the mosque, and men, and many of these photographs are of their religious ways, okay? And this is a lady that I asked to help me on the trip, which her name was Gula. She's a Turkish woman, and she doesn't speak good English, but when she gets on with us all and makes sure that we're all safe. And then I asked her, can you please dress up in your dress, in your Muslim dress? And she did that so that we could take some photographs of her. But you don't only need to do that. You can take photographs of people around the mosque and look how that beautiful light is lying. And this could also be intriguing light. but it's the culture of the people. And notice how I've tried to frame that in such a frame that shows the intriguing, that person within the frame of the photograph. You see, and you've got all the time in the world to do it. Just look around and look for the particular photos. Another thing about culture is the way people travel. And so when you're in the underground tunnels and by the train stations and all of that, that you can also take the time to just photograph people actually going to work, going to school, doing their daily travels, okay? And then, of course, we did other things such as the whirling dervishes, which is a ceremony, it's not a dance, of these guys who actually do this particular dance. And there's another photograph of a whirling dervish. But all around, wherever you look, you're going to find people's culture. Their culture is to hang up flags all over their place. And these places, if you notice these steps, is because there are no houses in this entire big city. There are no houses for average people. They all live in apartments. So they have these places all over where they go out and sit and relax and watch the sun go down. And this would be their stoep, if you want to call it, all over the cities. And so culture is all over the place. And remember, we've got our own culture here in South Africa, the own culture in Bloemfontein, and it's a different culture in Cape Town, and it's a different culture in Port Elizabeth. It's a matter of actually going and photographing that culture. And you'll see that culture all over. Have a look at this one. Istanbul is filled with cats. It's called the City of Cats because the people look after stray animals. And they feed all these stray cats and stray dogs. And so like in the shot before, you'll notice there's stray dogs. Dogs and cats get onto buses. They come into the restaurants and they sit there. They're in shop windows. You'll see them all over. And even like here on the bus stop, okay, where the people sit, they don't shoo the cats. They feed them and look after their cats. The next thing I want to speak to you about is another thing I look for. So we're looking at the culture, we're looking at the light, we're looking at the great times of day to take light, but timelessness. Capturing light, preserving in time, true timelessness lives in every frame. What I'm trying to say there, as jy wil foto's neem, wanneer mense na die foto kyk, het hulle geen bedoel of geen aanduiding. Jessie, luister na my Afrikaans. Ek sê vir jou, jy weet, my tong wikkel hier rond en hulle het geen aanduiding, wanneer was daai foto geneem? Want dis 'n ou plaashuisie en hy staan net daar in die oop veld en 'n mens kry 'n gevoel van jou foto dat dit kon op enige stadium afgeneem word. Dit kon laasweek gewees 40 jaar gelede of miskien nog 100 jaar gelede. Okay, so wat ek doen wanneer ek met foto's werk om timelessness in te sit of om ek wil foto's vat wanneer mense na dit kyk, sukkel om te sien, nie sukkel maar ek wil nie alles in my foto's hê wat net daar is. So ek vat foto's en dan vat ek my tyd om al die kameras uit te vat en die drade en die graffiti. En ek vat dit uit om te wys, ja, sien, wanneer was hierdie foto geneem? Dis 'n ou tram wat deur die strate ry en ek wil eintlik laat julle daar sien en dink, ja, dis moes in die 50s, 1950 en daai omgewing wees wanneer daar geen graffiti. So ek vat die tyd om al daai af te neem. Maar hoe lyk dit normaalweg? Okay, nie die foto voor die tyd, maar jy moet vroeg in die oggende gaan of jy moet 'n tyd kry wanneer die trams ry en daar's niemand daar nie, want gedurende die dag as jy op die verkeerde tyd gaan, lyk dit so. En al hierdie mense vat jou foto weg van die tipe foto wat jy wou eintlik gehad het. So baie kere moet ons na 'n plek teruggaan en teruggaan en teruggaan om uit te figure wanneer is die beste tyd om daai af te neem. Okay. So timelessness is ook soos hierdie bote en hulle lyk oud vir my. Hulle lyk soos hulle was in die 1960s hier in Istanbul en kyk na die mosk agter. Ja, ek het die graffiti op die linkerkant daar so 'n bietjie gelos, maar hy voel oud vir my en ons weet nie watter tyd was hy afgeneem en kyk daar. sien dis timeless. Ons het hierdie moderne bridge agter hom en dit, maar daar is nie ietsie in die foto wat ons voel dat ons in 'n verskillende tydperk is. En dit is basies wat, en hier het ons 'n ou gebou in Balat. Dis eintlik 'n skool, dis 'n Griekse skool, 'n Christian skool ook. En daar's net 35 mense wat daar skool hou, want natuurlik die Grieke, daar's nie so baie Grieke meer in die area, en stadig maar seker so eendag sal hy aan. En jy wil jou foto so neem dat wanneer jy na die foto kyk, dan dink jy, jessie, dit lyk vir my soos ietsie uit Lord of the Rings. Jy weet, dit moet oud lyk, en so wil ek nou foto's neem wat nou timeless is. So wanneer ek rondloop, soek ek vir daai tipe dinge. O, dit's mooi, dit sal 'n mooi timeless foto maak. Wag, kyk in daai kamer, kyk daai lig wat deurkom, dis intriguing light. O, daar sit 'n vrou en sy lees die Koran. Daai is kultuur. En so nou weet ek presies wat soek ek in daai tipe dinge. En jy weet, ons kan dit sê oor enige stad. As ons rond ons eie stad loop, is al hierdie dinge in ons eie stad. Baie, ek dink die is my gunsteling stokperdjie of deel van fotografie. So ek hou daarvan dat my foto's stories vertel. Through the lens, we don't just capture, we narrate. Ons net 'n foto, sonder om te praat daaroor, moet jy 'n storie daaruit kry. Dit is nie net 'n olifant in die pad. Kyk, dit moet 'n olifant wees wat in die son loop en daar's wolke in die afstand en jy dink, jy weet, daai olifant gaan nat word en die bobbejaan gaan, jy weet, dit moet 'n storie probeer vertel. En baie van die tye is hierdie stories eintlik baie eenvoudig. Jessie, nog 'n pragtige Afrikaans woord. Okay. Hulle is net 'n man wat in sy mosk sit en die Koran lees. Okay, en die lig kom daardeur. En jy sal miskien daai storie uitvat. Ek het gesê hy's in 'n mosk. Jy sal nie daarvan geweet het nie. Jy sal 'n ander storie daaruit kry. Okay, sodat wanneer jy wegloop, loop jy met jou storie en ek loop met my storie want ek het dit gevat. En ek wil net die foto afneem en jy moet jou storie daaruit vertel. Okay. Soos die ou man wat in die straat afloop. En sien jy hoe wandel daai paadjie soos baie stein af. En daai mense wat saam met my was, sal hulle jou sê, ek het hulle by 'n paar van hierdie strate geneem. Ek sê vir jou, Diane het vloekwoorde uitgesê van die party straatjies, maar ek sien jy die ou oom wat in die straat afloop. Maar sien jy hoe slim, wat het ek gesien? Daai rooi sakkie met die groen gebou. Rooi en groen maak pragtig werk, so pragtig by mekaar. En daar's 'n storie daarin. So eendag sit ek op die kant van die straat, kamera in hand, en my voete is bitterseer. Ek het skoene aangehad en ek weet nie of hulle te klein was of wat die probleem was met my skoene, maar jessie, my voete was, wel, dis in September laas jaar, wanneer ek nou my scouting mission gaan doen het. En hier loop hierdie oom oor die straat, en jy kan sien hy hobbel, en hy loop met sy kierie, en sy trolley wat hy daar sleep, en hy loop so, en ek dink, jy weet, Martin, jy klaar oor jou voete. Kyk na hierdie oomie, hy sukkel om te loop, jy moet gelukkig oor die geleentheid voel. En kyk daar, hy gaan na die winkel, hy loop verby winkels, en hy staan daar, en hy kyk in die venster, en sien jy daai motorized motorcycle daar, wat hy na daar kyk. En hy wens, jy kan sien, hy wens hy kon so motorfietsie, daai klein battery motorfietsies kry. Okay, so dit wys vir jou die storie, ek sien jy die kat van Istanbul wat daar langsom lê. So die hele ding is vol stories, maar is dit jou storie of is dit my storie? Die groot ding is ek het my foto geneem en hy bly met my en hy gaan met my bly vir ewig, want ek sal daai oomie altyd onthou en sê ek gaan nooit weer oor my voete kla. Nou partykeer onthou, ons is deel van photography en photography is rol speel. Dit is, jy kan stories vertel met jou foto's. En in die geval het ons Google gevra wie ons gehelp het om saam met ons te werk en sal sy 'n Turkse rooi rok dra met haar rooi hoed, okay, wat baie Frans lyk met haar rooi handsakkie. So sy het al hierdie goed vir haarself gaan kyk. En toe wys ek almal hoe het ons net 'n koffieshop en daai mense wat daar was sal glimlag nou waar ons nou 'n hele koffieshop gekommandeer het. Okay, sonder om te betaal, ons het net koffie georder en daai het ons nou hierdie pragtige toneel en foto. So partykeer kan jy jou foto's maak, jou eie stories vertel. Okay, ons het gegaan na hierdie pragtige mosk. Okay, in die oggendure en ons hom afgeneem het. En dan kom die ligte aan en die plekkie gaan so 'n bietjie vaal en grys. En dan kom Gule met haar rooi rokkie. En staan daarvoor en skielik maak ons stories. En daai wat daar was, moenie dink dat ons voeltjies in ons foto's gesit het. Ons het 'n man gehad wat die voeltjies voer en hulle in die lug laat so, want ons moet ons storie vertel. Alles was gereël vir ons en reg gedoen. Wel, ek het alles gereël, maar ek het vir die ouetjie gesê, luister, hier's 200 lere wat 100 is. Daai voeltjies moet vlieg as by ons fotografies foto's afneem. So ons het dit gedoen en dan het ons ook in die strate gegaan. Sien jy hoe vertel ek stories met my foto's? En partykeer is daai stories nie net iemand in die foto, maar skielik goedjies soos dit. Want in Istanbul is daar hierdie fantastiese ding oor diere, troeteldiere en voëls. En skielik sit jy jou hand op en die voël sal die kos uit jou hand kom vat. Maar jy moet reg wees met jou kamera om daai af te neem. Okay, maar ons sien hier die storie wat nou daar is. Okay, en daar's baie stories net in die straatfotografie. In die strate is waar mense op sy selfoon en sien jy daar agter, dit sê Istanbul Music Festival. Al die voëls kom daarna en sien jy hoe gebruik hulle voëls en alles as 'n advertensie vir dit. En daar's baie stories. Hulle lê net daar soos die hondjies en al daai. So ek loop met daai ook in my hand. Martin soek vir foto's wat party stories is. En op baie goeie lig en kultuur en al daai same loop ek en ek kyk vir en ons kan dit enige plek doen. Eye-catching color, ek is lief vir dit. Ek soek vir dinge wat vol kleur is. Okay, en daar's emotion in elke hue, net in die vensters hierdie roomhuise by 'n roomhuiswinkel. Okay, en vir my is dit oulik, ek hou daarvan. Okay, julle sal miskien nie meer goud of 'n COM gee nie, maar ek hou van my roomhuisfoto. En daai blokkies en vir my dis amper soos Cubanism, okay, in art style met verskillende kleure ice creams. En net in die marke is daar hierdie vials wat jy kan koop en sien jy die oranje en die blou en die blokkies en dit vir my maak 'n pragtige foto. Vir meeste mense is dit net 'n venster. Maar vir my is dit eye-catching geel kleur met 'n kat, met al die blokkies en sien jy al die patrone wat daar is. En dan kry jy plekke waar, soos dit is argitektuur, maar dan kry jy architecture. En ek bedoel pragtige architecture, pragtige kleure, eye-catching kleure. Okay, nou ek weet nie of iemand hier vanaand 'n moslim is, maar dis 'n moslim mosk. Maar sien jy daai spirals wat afkom? En ek dink wat die argitektuur, of ek is miskien verkeerd, is gesê, God is daarbo en sy lig kom deur in spirals en sy gees raak aan die mense. Maar sien jy ietsie snaaks? Daar is 3 spirals wat afkom. Is dit nie snaaks nie? As 'n Christeling moet ons weet, ons deel met die 3, Father, the Son and the Holy Ghost. Is dit nie snaaks dat in 'n mosk sien ons daai tipe ding? En so sien jy partykeer wanneer die dinge gebeur, dan dink jy, wag 'n bietjie, dit is so naby aan my eie geloof en my eie prinsipaliteite waar ons sien goedjies wat in die gelowe wat so deur mekaar werk. Okay, maar ons soek vir eye-catching color. En jy kry hierdie in die mosk waar alles handgeverf is en mosaiks wat in die dak gesit is. Wat moet jare gevat het om te doen. Okay? En eye-catching color waar ons klere afneem. Okay? Daar sê, dit hang nie af as dit op die derde is of wat daai, my hele ding is, ek sien daai klere en ek sê, ek moet daai foto neem. Jy sien, dis eye-catching color. Natuurlik ons het komposisie nodig en al daai tipe dinge. Maar partykeer is dit net 'n volle wat in 'n straat opry. 'n Ou volle. Jessie, toe ek kom sien, ek dink, jessie, daai volletjie is daai Volkswagentjie is so oulik. En toe draai ek om en toe sien ek hoe rye op die straat en ek sien daai turquoise klere op die kante en die oranje en toe vat ek 'n nommer die foto en ek gedog, ek seker hy gaan eye-catching color wees. En baie keer is dit donker en dit reën en dis laat namiddag. En skielik fade al die klere weg. Maar as jy mooi kyk, kom al die klere uit in die donkerheid. Okay, dit is in die dag en jy kan sien in die reën is dit absoluut ongelooflik om foto's te neem want daai klere reflect op die vloere en daai persoon wat in die straat afloop, sy refleksie kom uit want die strate is nou vol soos 'n spieël en dan skielik kom al daai klere uit. Jy sien, die klere is daar as jy die oë het om dit te sien. Maar as ek vir jou sê, laat ons foto's gaan neem, eye-catching color. Môre gaan deur Alberton met jou kamera sê, vandag gaan ek eye-catching color gaan afneem. Jy gaan nie glo hoeveel, want ons is te besig om vir die ding te soek en nie die idee te soek. Eye-catching color, en dit is in daai basilika. Nou, die plek, elke 10 minute of 5 minute verskil die klere. Dan wil jy terug na die begin gaan hardloop om ander foto's te gaan neem, want dis verskillende klere weer 'n keer. Okay? En hulle het hierdie snaakse sculptures Afrikaans, sculptuur, okay, want julle weet, daar in hierdie particular klein water seksie, en ek het daai pragtige oranje en groen afgeneem. En dan skielik verander die klere in 'n ander direksie en sien jy, nou is dit oranje bo en groen in die water en daai is eye-catching color. Kyk daar. Ek kon nie 'n foto neem. Dit het vir my gelyk soos ons Springbok span. Okay. En dan is dit net normale goed. Jy staan daar en jy sien 'n vlaggie wat op die muur hang. En dan kom die trein verby. Of jy vat net die foto en na die tyd kyk en jy sê, jy sien, dis eye-catching color. Okay, net, ek was bietjie gevoel, ek wens, ek kon daai vlaggie tussen die twee rooies doen, maar ek het gaan soek, nie net 'n hele dag, maar ek loop met al hierdie idees in my kop en sê, moenie vergeet om eye-catching color te afneem. Net mense wat in die straat loop. Okay, so ek hoop ek gee julle idees, nie net vir travel photography, maar om te sê, wag 'n bietjie, ek gaan nie net vir die ding gaan afneem, ek gaan vir die idee afneem. En een van daai idees wat nie kultuur is of eye-catching color, is simplicity. Nothing distracts, only the story remains. Ek gaan foto's neem en as ek iets sien wat net simplisties is, wil ek dit afneem. Okay, soos die ferryboats op jy weet, hierdie oggend het ek wakker geword en ek moet elke dag gaan foto's neem. Want dit is hoekom ek is daar, om plekke te vind, om mense te vat om foto's te neem. Okay, en ek staan op en dit is net vol mist en jikkie dag. Okay, gedog, ag nee Here, hoekom? Jy weet, ek soek bietjie beter weer. Toe gryp ek my kamera en toe gaan ek uit en toe loop ek en toe vat ek 'n paar foto's. Okay, en toe dog ek, wag 'n bietjie. Kyk daar, dis simplistic. En hulle is die hele plek vol, net simplistic foto's uit die mist. Okay, net oor die Bosphorus en as jy 'n lang shutter speed gebruik, baie simplistic, eenvoudig. Kyk, dan loop jy en skielik sien jy iemand wat op 'n parkbench sit. En hy's net alleen in die middel van die parkbench en daar's die groot mosk agter. Daar's 'n foto. Maar moenie dink dat ek loop en ek vat elke foto so 'n pragtige foto. Ek praat van duisende fotos. En nie almal is absoluut 'n pragtige foto nie. Maar dis die tyd wat ek het in daai plek en ek dink die hele tyd. Skielik sien jy 'n dak en dan vat jy 'n foto en by geluk kom 'n voël wat deurvlieg. Okay, want in Istanbul, as jy die mense vra, is dit net voëls. Jy moet partykeer voëls net uitdelete want daar's net te veel van hulle. Maar dis net 'n dak waar die son agter is, in daai laatmiddagson en dis simplisties. Of jy's in 'n mosk en daar's net een ou in die hele mos. Simplisties. Of ons vat Google en ons vra vir haar om te sit en bid terwyl ons foto's afneem en dit is haar bo op in die dames se area waar sy nou sit en die foto's afneem. Maar terwyl jy daar is, het ons simplisties, ons het kultuur, ons het eye-catching color, ons het al hierdie goedjies, maar daar's meer. Black and white. In monochrome, the distractions fade and the essence remains. So as jy loop en dan skielik sien jy iets en jy dink, ek dink dit sal mooi wees in swart en wit. Goedjies soos die ou man wat sit nou buitekant sy winkeltjie en hy doen ek dink verf raamwerk of ietsie soos dit. En dan vat jy die foto en dan later aan werk jy hom en jy dink, jessie, hy sal mooi lyk in swart en wit. Okay? So die eendag, terwyl ek daar was, toe gaan ek na 'n klein restaurant toe. Regtige Turkse restaurant. En hulle is baie klein, maar hulle het 3 vloere. So ek kry my bietjie kossies en jy weet, dit is, jy sê jy wil die en daai hê, en dan loop jy op die trappe, want daar was mense in die eerste vloer en tweede vloer. Toe kom ek by hierdie derde vloer. En daar skielik is 'n man, wat hy werk daar, en hy maak kos, soos die chef, een van die chefs, en hy sit daar en eet. En terwyl ek sit, ek het my kamera reg, nee, my kamera is met my die hele tyd. Toe sien ek ietsie wat ek nooit in my lewe gesien. Agter hom sit die kat en die, wat noem hulle dit, 'n seagull, 'n seamew, ek dink is dit. Okay? En elke nou en dan vat hy sy brood en hy gooi dit uit die een venstertjie en die kat eet, en dan gooi dit uit die ander venster en daar eet die voël dit. Maar as ek nie reg was vir dit, as ek gedog, laat ons ete net eet, dan sal ek nooit die foto gekry het. So, die hele ding van travel photography is ek is daar om foto's te neem. En ek sê ja, ek het baie meer foto's geneem wat nie gewerk het nie, maar sien jy hoe pragtig werk die in swart en wit. Of die hondjie wat in die reënige dag net in die hallway sit. En moenie vir my sê, wat 'n reënige dag. Kyk na die foto, ek was in die reën. Dit kom nou af. Ja, ek is so onder 'n afdak, my kamera is bietjie nat, ek het my lenskleaner wat ek nou water van my lens afvat, maar ja, dit het 'n pragtige swart en wit reënfoto gemaak. Hoeveel foto's het jy gesien in die reën? Ja, hier is een van hulle. En op by 'n plek, ek sit daar, onthou jy die Ergule en die rooi rok met die voëls, terwyl ek nou daar was 'n man wat getrou het met sy vrou. Okay, en hulle het net daar gestaan, net die paartjie, en 'n fotograaf op die een kant wat foto's van hulle geneem het, en die ouetjie kom en hy jaag die voëls. Daar's hulle, daai selfde duwe, dit was op 'n ander tyd of 'n ander tyd, maar kyk hoe pragtig is daai swart en wit, of net die ou visserman, of die visserman wat daar staan op die kant van die Bosphorus en visvang. Kyk jy hoe laag het ek gegaan. My broek het nat geword, want ek sit in water, na die reën. Okay, want ja, ek moet daai foto afneem, en enige iemand kan opstaan en voor, nee, ek moet laag wees, dat ek hom in die refleksie kan kry. Of op daai oggend, wanneer al daai reëndag, 'n reënerige dag was, en skielik, die water, jy weet, dis seewater, dis eintlik deel van die Mediterrane, en daar, jy weet, dis branders en al daai, en skielik kom die ou verby. Die visserman en al daai mist in die mos. En dan vat jy daar, sien jy hoe werk hy in swart en wit, maar ek loop en ek dink oor swart en wit, en ek dink, jessie, die gaan mooi werk in swart en wit. Of die Marmara University, die is die buitekant van die mos met die spiral. En ja, bietjie gewerk op hom en al daai. Maar Simon, onthou jy Simon Mouton wat saam met ons was, ek het gevra vir 'n paar van sy foto's en 'n paar ander mense se foto's. En ons het op 'n straat eendag geloop en ek vat hom om te gaan sien waar Agatha Christie geskryf het daai boek Murder on the Orient Express. En hy sê nie hy wil die hotel sien. So ons loop en terwyl hy loop, die bliksem toe vat hy die foto. Waar die man staan en sy sigarette rook in daai ou. Maar sien jy daai timelessness? Dit lyk soos 'n foto wat by een van die master photographers geneem het 40 of 50 jaar gelede. Okay, of buite kan die mosk waar die dame loop. Maar kyk jy weet, dit is so moeilik deesdae om foto's te neem sonder mense op hulle selfone. Maar sien jy hoe werk daai so mooi in swart en wit? Of die kat wat in die mosk loop. En toe skielik vat hy die foto. Die is nie my foto nie. Okay, dit is Simon. En toe wys hy my die foto op die einde van die straat. En ek gesê, waar het jy dit afgeneem? Hy sê, nee, net hier agterom. Toe loop ek terug, maar dit was te laat. Jy sien altyd reg wees. En hy het hom in swart en wit. Hy het gesê, Martin, hy gaan 'n pragtige swart en wit werk. En hier is sy foto. Okay, die man op die regterkant op die vlag, is genoem Attenberg. Hy was baie beroemd. En net op die begin van die Eerste Wêreld, net na die Eerste Wêreldoorlog waarna hy nou Turkye oorgevat. Hy is hulle Nelson Mandela. En sy vlaggies is die hele dorp vol, nogtans vandag. En kan jy sien, die ou sit nou die Turkse vlag uit in die middel. En Atatürk kyk na hom. Net 'n oombliekie, maar kyk hoe pragtig is dit in swart en wit. So die ander ding wat ons moet onthou, of so daai is 'n paar dingetjies, maar een ding wat ek met loop ook, is hierdie ding wat ek noem efficient post-processing. Okay, refined through intention. En wat ek doen, hoekom sê ek refined through intention, is ek kyk deur my lens en ek weet presies hoe gaan ek die foto edit. Nou, kom saam met my op hierdie route. Baie van my studente vra die, hoekom is my foto so plat? Of, why are my photos so flat? So gryserig. En die rede is want ons shoot in RAW. So ons stel ons kameras op RAW en ons vat foto's en daai foto's is flat. Okay. Nou JPEGs lyk baie beter as jy dit reguit van jou kamera afvat. Nou het jy ooit gesien, as jy foto's neem, jy kyk op jou agter van jou skerm en jy dink, "Jessie, dis mooi," maar jy kom en jy sit dit op jou rekenaar en dan ietsie het gebeur. Ietsie verkeerd het gebeur. Die rede daarvoor is die foto agter op jou skerm is 'n JPEG. Jou skerm en jou kamera kan nie 'n RAW foto sien nie. Die RAW foto is op jou harde skyf gesit op jou memory stokkie en in daai RAW foto is daar 3 JPEGs. Binne in daai RAW foto. En een van daai JPEGs word gewys vir jou agter op jou skerm. En jy sien daai, maar daai JPEG wat jy sien is klaar geproses by jou kamera. Dit is nie die RAW foto. Okay. So JPEGs versus RAW. As jy JPEGs vat, jou kamera gaan ekstra contrast insit, dit gaan sharpening doen, dit gaan so 'n bietjie noise reduction ook vir jou doen. Dit gaan boost jou color and saturation en dit gaan bietjie meer swats in die donker sit en hy gaan bietjie meer brightness vir jou sit. Alles op daai een skoot wat jy daai foto neem, gaan jou kamera daai foto bewerk en hy gaan hom jou agter op jou kamera vir jou wys. Okay. Met 'n RAW foto, daar is niks added contrast, geen sharpening, geen noise reduction, boost color and saturation, niks, no blacks, no added brightness. Dit is vir ons om op jou computer te werk. Dis hoekom skiet ons in RAW, want jy gaan jou foto's bewerk daar. Nou as jy nie weet hoe om met jou foto's te werk nie, as jy nie goed met jou editing is, dan skiet in JPEG. Baie maklik. Jou kamera het dit, skiet in JPEG. Martin, is jy mal? Nee, ons gaan nooit op JPEG skiet. Dit is vir Bobbiane. Laat ek jou sê, is meeste van die beste sportsfotographers in die wêreld skiet op JPEG, nie op RAW. Nou, meeste van die beste journalists in die wêreld skiet op JPEG, want hulle moet daai foto's verskoon my werk so vinnig as moontlik. en stuur na hulle en hulle stuur en werk met dit op JPEG. So daar's niks verkeerd met JPEG. Maar as jy meer kleure wil hê en meer data uit jou foto wil hê, maar dan moet jy dit in RAW bewerk, maar jy moet weet hoe. Die ander probleem wat ons het, en die moet jy asseblief net verstaan. Jou camera can't take scars. Jou camera kan nie jou die lig afneem. It is terribly, terribly bad at taking skies. En jy kan dit nie glo nie, of jy kan dit glo, doen wat jy wil, maar jou camera can't take skies. Your eyes can see the things, but your camera can't see it. En hier's die rede waarvoor. We have to do all of these things in post-processing. So kyk na my foto's, as jy reg. Daai is die foto nadat ek dit bewerk het. Okay, dis die klaar gedoende foto. En hier is die foto uit kamera uit. Dieselfde foto, sien jy? Die rede hoekom hy so lyk, is dat ek hom bewerk het. Okay, laat ek jou 'n ander foto neem. Die is nie in Istanbul nie. Okay, die is in Belito. Okay. Jessie Martin, jou kamera is goed. Onthou, jou kamera kan nie skies afneem. Hier is die foto uit kamera. En laat ek jou nou sê, daai wat nou editing weet, ek gee nie om wat jy doen. Jy kan nooit daai son reg kry in editing. Hy is uitgeblaas. Daar's niks wat jy aan dit kan doen. Okay, so hoe het ek dit reg gekry? Laat ek na die volgende een kom. Die is na kamera, die is in post-processing gedoen. Ek wil jou die foto voor die tyd wys. Direk uit kamera, daar's die foto. Kyk na die son, hoe uitgeblaas is hy. Kyk na die geboue, hoe donker is hulle, maar as ek hier kom, kan jy bietjie detail in die geboue sien, die son is gehanteer en die water is pragtig. Laat ons weer gaan kyk. En hierdie is die rede. So, jy kan gaan Google, jy kan gaan YouTube, die is die rede. Dynamic range comparison. Human eye versus the camera. The human eye kan 20 tot 21 stops van light sien. Dit bedoel, ons oog kan in 'n particular manier in die donker sien en tot in baie bright area sien. En dit is 20 stops. So, laat ek jou 'n voorbeeld gee. Jy loop in jou garage, daar's geen lig aan. Jy loop in die garage en jy kan basies uitmaak wat in die shelves is. Jy kan die kaart daar sien. En jy kyk daar en jy sien daar staan jou kat op die werkswinkel. Gaan vat 'n foto van dieselfde toneel en die hele kamer is pikswart. Die rede is ons oë kan in 'n sekere mate in die donker sien. Dan loop jy in die middel van die dag en jy kyk op in die lug en jy kan al die wolke sien, dis pragtig. Jou kamera kan dit nie vat nie. Okay. So, ons kan 20 stops sien. Jou kamera sensor kan tussen 12 en 15 stops sien. Hy is 5 stops van lig kort. En dit is eintlik baie. Maar die snaakse ding is 15 is van die beste dynamic range kameras op die mark. En ek gaan nie nou vir jou sê wat is die beste en wat is die slegste, want ons wil nie uitkom. Maar gaan kyk, gaan Google en sê, what is the best camera for dynamic range? Gaan Google, gaan sien. En sê, what is the worst? Jy gaan verbaas wees. Jy gaan heeltemal verbaas wees. Okay? So, die kamera kan tussen 12 en 15 stops wees. Wat is die verskil tussen 15 en 14 en 13? Die baie. Okay. So, ons oog kan 20 stops sien. En daar het ek soos 'n kaartjie gesit. Op die linkerkant, jou camera blown out highlights, die wit is heeltemal uitgeblaas, maar jou grys en swart is lekker. Okay? Jou camera shadows, as jy dit nou stel, so jy sê nou wag 'n bietjie, laat ek die highlights regmaak. Nou is jou highlights grys in die middel. Dan gaan hulle tot 'n donker grys, maar dan gaan jou swart donker. Maar die oog kan lig, grys en donker sien. So laat ek dit nou meer in 'n foto vir jou wys. Daar's die foto met my kamera presies reggestel om die foto af te neem. Exposure wise. Kyk daar, kan so bietjie in die donker sien. Dit is in die dag in 'n straat, okay? Maar kyk na die lig, dis heeltemal uitgeblaas. Ek het nou net gesê, jou kamera is baie sleg om skies af te neem. So skielik draai jy daai kamera en dan vat jy jou tweede foto want die sky is te lig. En daar's jou foto, ja, nee, die sky is fantasties. Maar kyk na die straat, alles is pikdonker. So wag 'n bietjie. Laat ek nou vir die straat 'n foto afneem. So ek gaan vat die foto vir die straat. Daar's hy. Nou is die straat pragtig, maar kyk na die lig. Nou moenie vir my sê dat die nie 3 van dieselfde foto's is. Nie dieselfde foto's. Die is 3 foto's na mekaar. Kyk na die man wat loop. Daar kan jy amper hom nie sien nie en daar kan jy sien sy voet is net so 'n bietjie terug. Okay, so dit is 3 verskillende exposures. Een normaal, een lig en een donker. Die donker een, die sky is reg. Die ligte een is die straat reg. En die gemiddelde een is, ja, die straat is so 'n bietjie uitgeblaas. Nou die antwoord is dit is die foto wat julle sien. Dit is na post-processing. Okay? Geen sky ingesit nie. En wat die rede is dat multiple exposure bracketing. As jy landskappe gaan vat of jy gaan nou in strate werk en jy sukkel met lig, moet jy eintlik 3 foto's afneem. Okay, daai sal jou dynamic range increase na amper 20 toe wat ons oog kan sien, want jy vat 'n donker foto, 'n normale foto en 'n ligte foto. Alright? 'n normal photography soos die 3 shots, maar in dark areas waar dit baie donker is en daar's baie helder lig, 5 foto's. En dis exposure tussen 1 en 2 stops tussen hulle. Dit bedoel 'n donker foto, 'n normale foto en 'n ligte foto met 3 stops tussen of 5 stops met 1 tussenin. Okay. En om dit af te neem moet jy in aperture priority wees en jou auto ISO moet af wees. Nou baie mense sê nee Martin, ek kry dieselfde, ek sit hom op auto ISO. Geen probleem. Jessie, ek kan jou sê met auto ISO jou kamera gaan probeer om al hierdie donkerheid in die oggend onder te kry, so jy gaan daai ISO opstuur en jou lig in daarbo gaan heeltemal uitblaas. So die probleem is meeste van ons mense vat foto's so en ons gooi dit in die asblik. En ons was daar. Maar as jy 3 bymekaar gevat het, 1 donker, 1 middel, 1 lig en jy sit dit bymekaar, dan kan jy jou foto red. Okay. So multiple exposure, daar sê. Die ander ding hoekom jy uitgaan is to go to fascinating locations. So natuurlik al daai goed wat ek vir julle nou gesê het, dan het ek ook hierdie ding om fascinating locations, plekke te gaan uitsoek wat pragtig is, soos die hawe by in Galata, of hierdie is die binnekant van die Hagia Sophia. Hy was net na Christus 502 jaar na Christus gebou. En jy kan net dink na hierdie argitektuur, is 'n World Heritage Site, jy het foto's van hom buitekant gesien, en kan jy net dink, hulle het daai so lank gelede gebou. Okay, vir 500 jaar was dit die grootste gebou in die wêreld met die grootste dome, vir 500 jaar. Ons kan nie eers nou 'n padhaal regmaak nie, so ek weet nie waar gaan ons, maar daai is die binnekant van die Hagia Sophia. Van bo af, natuurlik mense kan nie daaronder gaan loop. Of jy gaan na hierdie brug toe en ons vat foto's so, en ons wag vir daai regte lig waar ons die water kan kry sodat hy mooi glad is. Okay? En dan 'n ander ding is, jy kan onder daai brug gaan loop en dan kan jy 'n foto so neem met die baan. So fascinating locations is pragtig, die brug. So jy moet daai gaan uitsoek, waar is die beste plek, en jy het al klaar foto's van die ondergrondse sisteun gesien. Die strate in die reën van Galata. En natuurlik binnekant party van die mosques wat binnekant is. Okay? En soos jy gesien het voorheen, hier is 'n ander foto van die ander ding van die ander mosk wat so daai pilare wat so opgaan tussen die 2 hoeke van die foto wat so uitstreek, en hulle is altyd, en as jy klaar is met al jou foto's van travel photography, kan jy alles, soos ek sê, jy integrating everything seamless. Sodat wanneer jy klaar is, kan jy jou kosfoto's sien, jy kan jou klere sien, jou intriguing light, jou mooi tye van die dag, en pragtige foto's van jou rit. Jy is daar op 'n missie. Daai trip, as dit Bloemfontein was, of Kaapstad, of selfs net na Johannesburg toe, het jou geld gekos om soontoe te gaan. Maak seker, jy gaan nie net na die plek toe, maar maak seker jy gaan met 'n idee om jou foto's af te neem. Of nie net een idee, maar so wat ek vir julle vanaand gewys het. Sodat as daai geldjies wat jy betaal het, sal die moeite werd wees. En dan sal jy terugkom met 2 dinge. Nommer 1, mooi foto's. En nommer 2, pragtige tye wat ons almal saam geniet het, eerder met familie, vriende, of nuwe vriende wat jy ontmoet het op 'n foto ding. Okay. So, net om klaar te maak, as jy nou Istanbul wil explore, kan jy saam met my opkom as jy wil. Daar's 'n party van julle mense wat saam met my gekom het, en dit is in April hierdie aankomende jaar, 2016. Daar is, ek dink op die oomblik 2 of 3 plekkies oop. Ek dink is 2 plekkies nog oop. So as jy belangstel, jy kan my nommer daar afskryf, of jy kan na my website toe gaan en gee vir my 'n likeie of ietsie, en ons kan dit doen. Maar voordat ek gaan, wil ek net eerstens julle bedank dat ek hier vanaand met julle kon praat en vir julle my foto's wys, wat altyd 'n plesier is vir my. En baie kere kry ek die aangeleentheid om te judge, en ek sien julle foto's, en dit is pragtig plesierig vir my. Die tweede ding is die pragtige mense van Turkye en Istanbul, wat ons toegelaat het om hulle stad af te neem, en ons pragtige foto's hier na Suid-Afrika teruggekom, sodat ons dit vir almal kan wys. Vir almal dankie, en ek hoop julle dit geniet.
Thank you, Martin. Can I quickly ask you a question?
Yes, sure.
The tulips are in April. What did you have in the parks in September? Did they plant other flowers?
No. So I think you asked April and September. September is their autumn. So all their leaves are coming off, okay? But April is their spring. That's when all the flowers come out, yes.
Okay. Is there anybody that wants to ask a question for Martin quickly?
Yes, sure.
Nou is nie tyd om skaam te wees nie, hoor. Martin gaan vir julle help.
No questions, but just a thank you, Martin. It was really amazing and inspirational and delightful. I can't have enough words to say it was beautiful. Thank you very much.
Did you recognize some of the places?
I definitely did. I was in memory lane.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else? If you take one thing away from this talk is bracketing. You must, yeah, you guys must just go and do bracketing.
Yes, I can come do a talk on it for you and show you guys how to do bracketing. That is, let me tell you, if you're not bracketing your shots and you're a landscape photographer, you're going to be lost in the water. You've got to bracket. There's no question. Diane, you remember the guy from Getaway that came with us?
Ryan, yes.
Ryan. Okay. Ryan takes photographs in hotels, and he takes photographs of food, and he takes photographs all over the world. You know, he's a traveling photographer, and and I taught Ryan bracketing just before he came on the trip. And Ryan tells me, he said, Martin, you've altered my photography. I haven't altered the photography. The camera, the word bracketing is there for that reason. He now captures incredible photographs of inside places where the light is too harsh and all of that by bracketing his shots. You've got to bracket. And if you want to, Diane, I'll come do a talk on it, and I'll show you how to process them, how you put the 3 photos together or the 5 photos together. Dit is baie eenvoudig. Okay? En dit gaan vir julle die wêreld van verskil maak op julle vertaal.
Dankie Martin, thank you.
Okay, enige vraag, ek sal in Afrikaans, ek beloof ek sal in Afrikaans antwoord.
Martin, wat ek gesien het, jou foto's is baie skoon. Ons is nou 'n rukkie terug, of 'n jaar terug was ons in Indië gewees. En dit is nou photojournalism. En dit
Ja,
is vreeslik moeilik gewees om daai goeders te edit, met die vuil goeders in die strate. Maar dit is wat dit is. Maar ek merk jou foto's is silwer skoon, skoon gemaak. Is die stad so skoon of watse tipe kategorie skryf mens daai tipe foto's in?
okay, so Karen, baie goeie vraag. Okay, jy kan van die mense vra wat saamgekom het. Ons het so 'n bakkie gehad en voordat ons foto's geneem het die sweepers uitgeklim, die strate gewas en daar's hy. En dan nee, ek speel maar net. Nee, daar is sigaretstoppies die hele plek vol. Okay, kyk, hulle doen baie goed om die plek probeer skoon te hou, maar daar's 22 miljoen mense wat stompies, jy weet, jy kan dink 1/3 van die Turke rook. So hulle stompies, ek rook ook, maar hulle stompies lê die hele wêreld vol. Okay, onthou Karen, foto's is nie net vir 'n kompetisie. Dit is jou lewe. Okay. En soos jy sê, my foto's is skoon, want dis hoe ek dit wil hê. Ek gaan dit nie enter in 'n straat. I'm not going to enter them into street photography kategorie, want ek het hulle skoon gemaak. Want as jy nou na India toe gaan en jy kyk na die pragtige foto's van India, ek kan jou sê hulle was almal skoon gemaak sodat dit mooi lyk. Maar die werklikheid is nie alles is pragtig mooi. Daar is plekkies waar ons daai grind wil hê, maar daar's ook plekke waar ons moet ons foto's skoon maak en netjies maak en mooi maak soos ons dit wil hê. En ons het daai toerusting om dit te doen. Maar onthou, dit is nie alles net om by 'n kompetisie in te sit. Jy weet daai ou vrou wat jy gesien het in India, of daai scenes wat jy gesien het, die klere van India, dit is absoluut pragtig. Maak dit skoon sodat jy dit kan geniet. Okay? Jy kyk na die foto's en hoeveel keer het jy gesê, "Jessie, ek het nooit gesien hoe lê daai plastiese sakkie op die linkerkant." Maar dan sal ons moet geen foto's afneem. Ons moet daai plastiese sakkie wegneem, want dit verneel ons foto, sodat ons 'n pragtige mooi foto van daai toneel het met die ou vrou wat daar sit en met haar klere wat daar sit. So ons maak dit skoon. En in die wêreld van fotografie, okay, nie die wêreld van klub nie, of nie klub nie, van salonne. Die wêreld van fotografie is selfs National Geographic maak elke foto van hulle skoon.
Ja.
Elke blokkie op. So dit is dat jy 'n pragtige foto het. Weet jy, ons het nou net die Suid-Afrika het nou net die beste wildlife photographer van die jaar gewen. Hulle het nie hom gevra het jy spots uitgevat nie. Natuurlik het hy. Om daai foto te kry dat hy die wêreld beste foto in nature is. Natuurlik het hy daai foto mooi bewerk dat hy so pragtig is dat hulle hom in 'n groot raam kan sit. Maar ongelukkig, nie ongelukkig, maar gelukkig, die wêreld van photojournalism in kompetisie sê hulle ons mag nie enigiets aan die foto doen, maar dis die reël. Maar onthou dat op die ander kant is, wat jou foto's sit om so in die kompetisie, dan werk hom so bietjie meer soos jy wil hom hê, en dan sê jy hom ook soos daai een. Dan het jy twee, een vir kompetisie en een wat Karen se foto is. Want dit is, jy weet, jy het ietsie gesê, my foto's is altyd skoonender, maar dit is, hoe sien julle my as 'n fotografer? Okay, ek wil nie foto's vir julle wys met stompies deur die hele straat in.
Korrek. So dit is vir my, dit is vir my baie sterend om my foto's so in te dien, die photojournalism. So ek wonder maar net, wat is die rede daarvoor?
Dit is net dat in kompetisie daai photojournalism of street photography en ook natuur wil hulle net presies hê wat hulle van die kameras uitgekry het. Wel nie presies nie, daar's paar dinge jy kan doen, jy kan kleure uitbring, jy kan donker en ligter maak, maar jy kan niks uit die foto sit of niks by in die foto sit. Maar daai is kompetisie.
Ja.
Okay. Daar is die beste wêreld is ons is nie net fotographers vir kompetisie, ons is fotographers vir ons. Dis ons, jy weet, dit is ons pragtige ding wat ons doen. En die plekke waar ons heen gaan en daar. En ek het by the way julle foto's gesien en hulle is pragtig. Maar gaan werk dit soos Karen en jou man dit geniet. En daar is, ja, natuurlik is daar kompetisie wat jy insit, maar werk dit soos wat jy dit wil hê, hoe mooi wil jy dit hê. En die storie wat jy gesien het deur jou oë.
Ja, dankie
Okay.
Martin. Baie dankie.
Enige ander vrae?
Jy moet vra.
Ja, vra nou. Wel, ek hoop julle.
Die ander vraag wat ek wil vra, Martin, ek sien jou skies op al jou foto's is verskriklik mooi. Het jy baie sky replacements gedoen op die foto's?
Ek dink nie op enige een van die foto's wat jy vanaand gesien het ek ooit 'n sky ingesit.
Ja,
Okay.
die skies is baie mooi geweest.
Maar onthou jy toe ek by daai een ding was, het ek gesê ons moet in terwyl ons nou ons foto's gaan soek of nie die foto's, daai idees gaan uitsoek, moet ons ook loop met daai idee van editing. Okay, en wanneer ek nou loop met daai editing, weet ek, luister Martin, jou kamera kan nie skies afneem. Hy kan nie. En ek weet nie, mense sê vir my, ja, maar Martin, ek het 'n Sony, of ek het 'n Canon, en ek het 'n Nikon, en ek het 'n Fuji, en ek het filters. Okay. Wat ek jou sê, in daai omstandighede, vat die tyd om die filters aan te sit en kry die regte ding met hom op 'n tripod en sien jy waar die ou man geloop het terwyl jy nou daai foto's afgeneem het. Hy is weg. Okay. So
Ja.
die antwoord is dat ek moet eintlik 3 of 5 foto's neem. So daai 5 foto's of 3 foto's gaan ek 'n donker foto vat wat die sky gaan mooi maak. 'n normale foto waar die straat gaan lekker wees, okay? En 'n ligte foto om in die donkerheid van die foto te kom. Dan sit ek daai 3 bymekaar, dan het ek my foto.
So
So
jy
dan
het bracketing op meeste van jou foto's gedoen. Is dit
ek
wat
sal
jy-
as ek uitgaan, nee, as ek my kamera nie op bracketing is, dan is daar ietsie fout. En meeste van die mense wat saam sal sê, Martin, as hy vat, dan vat hy dit. Want jy druk net so sneller af, en daar is die 3 foto's. Hy's net so vinnig. Of dit, daar vat hy die 3 foto's. So, dan kom ek by die huis, en dan kan ek kies, die ligte een, die normale een, of die donker een. Nee, ek dink die donker een is beter, ek sal net op hom werk. Of, ek kan sê die ligte een, hy lyk mooi, hy is bietjie mooi haaitjie, en ek kan op hom werk. Of die normale een. Of ek kan al 3 bymekaar sit, of 2 van hulle bymekaar sit. En dan het ek hulle. Maar die ding, Karen, is soos jy gesê het nou, dink maar net, om terug India toe te gaan, om die
Maar
foto...
jou internet is unstable.
Oh, sorry. Let me just see why. Is that better? I've just switched off my... Can you hear me?
Ja, jou internet is
Yes,
unstable
we
now.
can hear you.
Oh, okay.
Very good.
We can hear you.
Okay, so to go back to your location, to go back to India or to go back to Istanbul is just too much, or to go back to Bloemfontein. It's just too much, and we've lost the shot. So I'm not prepared to lose a shot, and I will shoot most of my photos bracketed. Not all. There'll be times where I'll be sitting and say, I don't need to bracket now because the light is stable and I can set it. But while I'm walking down the streets, and if you don't believe me, put your camera onto auto ISO, okay? And look through your viewfinder and look at the ISO on the meter, and then just turn 180 degrees around and look at how much that auto ISO changes. Are you changing your camera that much in manual? No. Because we don't have the time or how quickly we can do it. So I point the camera, I get my camera settings right, and I fire the 3 shots so that I've got them, and then put them together, or keep the 3 separate ones and choose the best one out of the 3. And I'd rather go home with 3 or 4 terabytes of photos, and sometimes 3, all the same, dark light, medium, dark light, medium, then lose a photo. Okay, so that's why most of the shots are bracketed so that I can get my skies right. and I very rarely have put in another sky. There are times where, yeah, it does go wrong, but not in this set. No, I don't think I'd replaced one sky in this whole set here.
Jo, okay, baie dankie Martin.
Plesier. Enige
Okay, we're
anders?
running out of time here. So, Martin, thank you very much. Eh?